talking about your Big Ten predictions, and I know we're all excited to watch the Big Ten this year. It's going to be interesting.
So,
and I really want to hear you get into it.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I do the occasional article for Belly Up Sports. Great website, great company. They do podcasts and articles. I can recommend another college football podcast called The Blackout from their network. Phenomenal guys. That's a Pick'em pod. I'm a part of their Pick'em contest. But this is something I'm really excited about. Okay. And I have a couple of bold predictions in here. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to give you some of the
big highlights.
The highlights that have gotten a little bit of blowback. So, starting out
the hot takes.
Minnesota. All right.
So you're very high on Minnesota this year.
I have Minnesota being undefeated and being the Big Ten West champs. I think
that's where you get blowback.
Not actually.
Really?
Not actually.
Oh,
so they're returning a very good team. I really like PJ Fleck. He's a great ball coach. Defensively, they lost their top 3 returning tacklers, but they really have a lot of depth and talent to fill those shoes. They have, their defense is still very experienced. Of all 11 positions, they only have one underclassman on the entire defense. So it's going to be a very experienced group. Their offense is still going to be explosive. I'm really excited to see what the Golden Gophers do this year.
Well, we're going to find out week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, with Michigan leading off the season against Michigan.
And
no home field advantage, so it's going to be... I mean, I know it's at home, but there's not going to be any home field advantage with how the COVID shit is, and it's going to be interesting.
Now, I have them projected to go undefeated. However, there is one stretch where if they have a loss, it will be in this stretch right here. So those 4 games are 4 tough games back-to-back, and you may be looking at a couple of them
even Nebraska.
And thinking, but, and you'll...
I know.
It's interesting that you say that, because we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I am very high on Northwestern, and Purdue with Rondale Moore opting back in is huge. I think Purdue is a little bit of a trap game like they were for Ohio State back in 2018. Okay. So that is my pick to come out of the Big Ten West. Now here, you mentioned it. Take a gander.
Oh, you got them going winless.
Yes.
Which, I mean...
it's the schedule. I
think they take Illinois, man.
I like the team. I think if the schedule composition was different, they would have a lot better chance. I would see them as maybe a 3-win team within the conference. But this schedule is just pretty much a death's row. Because you have Ohio State, Wisconsin, Northwestern I'm very high on this year, and you'll find out why here in just a second. Then they go into Penn State, and, you end the year. Illinois is the one game I could see them winning.
Do you think Penn State's going to be really good this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, losing Micah Parsons is going to really hurt them, though.
Yes, it will. But we'll also get into that a little bit. So, Northwestern, this is my true sleeper pick for the Big Ten West. And the reason why is because they get grad transfer Peyton Ramsey from Indiana as the new starting quarterback for
Peyton Ramsey's up there now?
He transferred up this year. As a
Yeah.
And that boy is a stud.
Yeah,
he's
good.
Very good, and you throw him in with a Pat Fitzgerald-led team. I think that is and they're a very experienced group as well. They only have 3 starters on their defense that aren't seniors.
And that's Pat Fitzgerald's recipe. Okay, so like when for those who I know, a lot of the people that watch these videos are going to be Big Ten country, so they might understand this if they pay attention to football. But Pat Fitzgerald's formula for his Northwestern team is I'm going to recruit. Have one really good recruiting cycle for Northwestern standards. I'm going to suffer through some freaking 4-win, 5-win seasons for 2 or 3 years, and then I'm going to have this team full of seniors and juniors, and then we're going to go out and freaking win nine games.
Yep.
That's just how they are. They grind up their experience, and then when that year hits, they hit it, and they're. I believe in it. it's not even just a Peyton Ramsey, but you telling me that there's only 3 people that aren't seniors on that offense? Or is that defense? On that defense?
Their offense is very experienced as well. Now, I initially had them beating Purdue, and I was writing this article, and as I submitted it for editing to our editors, the Rondale Moore news broke, and I went back in, and I think Purdue will take that because not only do you have Rondale Moore, you also have David Bell, who is an explosive stud of a wide receiver. Opposite him, who's a tall, rangy receiver, a true red zone threat. So I think those two dynamic wide receivers.
Yeah, I want to hear how high you are in Purdue now.
I mean, I wasn't just want to skip over them, but I have Purdue as a 2-loss team. I have them going 6-2. I think they get some big wins starting out with Iowa, who lost their starting quarterback in Nate Stanley. He wasn't the best quarterback, but he was a very good quarterback. Well, not very good. He was a good quarterback, but I think they have a very easy schedule when you compare it to the rest of the conference. The only real competition is Northwestern, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. In my eyes.
Well, what's their defense look like, though?
And that's the thing where it's a little bit questionable because they lose their leading tackler in Ben Holt, but pretty much the rest of the defense is back. So I was pretty comfortable to give them some high praise and high expectations for myself, especially knowing that with just one stud at wide receiver and a questionable defense, they were able to dismantle and blow out a loaded Ohio State team, and now they have 2 very dynamic wide receivers and
almost
a more experienced
defense,
as well as their entire defense pretty much coming back.
Yeah.
So I was very comfortable giving them a 6-win season within an 8-game schedule. Now, obviously, Wisconsin is also the other team. I have their only loss being to Minnesota.
Well, so the Big Ten West looks pretty good this year. Typically, they're a big step below the Big Ten East.
Yes. So, in terms of the Big Ten East, you have your usual, and we aren't going to get into all of these, just some of the more notable selections.
Let's hear your Michigan. I want to see your Michigan.
Michigan, I have them 4-4. Not just because I think they're a bad team, mainly because I think their schedule has them against 4 of the toughest teams in the Big Ten Conference. You have Minnesota, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Ohio State. And I think they lose all of those 4 games. Those are the 4. They lose their 4 big games. That's my prediction for them. Okay. You think about their quarterback room, which is the big point, and you've been harping on this last week with your Jim Harbaugh, you're on notice, talking about your quarterback room. Shea Patterson's gone. Dylan McCaffrey opts out, transfers out. You're left with Joe Milton, and what depth do you have if Milton goes down? Yeah. So that is a big concern.
And you know, going back on that, you know, I get that these are weird times and everything, but if you're this great elite coach, fucking prove it. You know, come out and show us how great you are, because I mean the schedule looks pretty brutal now that I'm really looking at it, and it's weird for me to sit here and think that a Michigan team could go 500.
Yeah, and I think this is a season where Harbaugh has to steal at least 2 of these big games in order to retain his job.
He's going to have to steal the Minnesota-Wisconsin games, because I don't see him beating Penn State or Ohio State.
So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about Little Brother. I think they have a really bad year with the only win being Rutgers. They are kind of devastated in terms of talent.
Well, that, and you got Mel Tucker coming in on his first season, and
he came in late
in a COVID-ridden
and he was hired really late. Yeah. So not only that, but you lose pretty much all of your defensive leaders. You lose Kenny Willekes, Tyreek Thompson, and Joe Bacci. So that is big time losses. Then you get into Penn State. I think Penn State is going to do Penn State things. Their only loss is going to be to Ohio State in week 2 in my mind, and I think that's going to be a really close game. I think that's within a 2-score game.
You sure they can beat Rutgers?
No. So, I do believe that...
Rutgers, please tell me you have them on my list.
Yes, of course.
Oh, for 3 straight seasons.
Yep. Yeah. So that's no surprise. And then Ohio State, of course, I have them. just loaded. I get into some of the guys I expect to really step up and take over at their respective positions, but that's kind of an expectation this year. In terms of the Big Ten Championship, obviously 2 8-0 teams. I have Minnesota and Ohio State meeting in Indianapolis, with Ohio State taking that. Now the question is, what does a 9-0 undefeated Big Ten champ make it into the Big Ten playoff? And at the time of me writing this article, I wasn't sure. But with the Big 12 looking the way it's looking, I think they will or if no games get canceled because of COVID. If any of the games, especially the big games for either Minnesota or Ohio State, get canceled due to COVID concerns, then I think we may have some issues getting a Big Ten team into the Big Ten playoff. But those are my Big Ten predictions. If you guys would like to check out my article, I also have a couple of other articles on Belly Up. It is bellyupsports.com. You can do Belly Up Sports /author, Zane Chapelier, or Z Chapelier, and find all my articles.
And we'll get some links put in the description for you guys, so you guys
can check out our social media and stuff too. You guys will be able to find.
So all of that's in here, and I want to hear what you boys have to say. What are your thoughts on those kind of my little bold takes here?
Well, so I personally, I mean, we talked about it a little bit week one. I'm not as high as you are on Minnesota. I think they take a step back. I want them to prove me wrong though, because I'd like to see that extra competition come out of the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of seeing Wisconsin every year. I feel like Wisconsin's always in the conference championship because the Big Ten West has been so weak. But now that you've got Purdue on the rise, Minnesota on the rise, I just want to see Minnesota do it 2 years in a row before I'm willing to sit here and put my weight on them. To me, I still feel like Wisconsin will take it, just because it's a matter of freaking. Yeah, it's a ritual, dude. I want to get high on these other teams, but Wisconsin always gets it done.
And the thing is that you have to take into consideration is the schedule composition, right? So Minnesota has a really difficult 4-game streak. When you look at Wisconsin, they really don't have. They have a 3-game streak of tough opponents. They have Michigan, Northwestern, and Minnesota. And that's the reason why I have them losing to Minnesota, because it's the 3rd game of that 3-game streak. I think just at Michigan, at Northwestern, and then you finally get home and you have a pretty explosive Minnesota team. I think that's what gives Minnesota the edge in my eyes. Even though Minnesota does have that tough 4-game stretch, it's not. It depends on how high you are on like your Michigans, your Purdue's, and your Iowa. Because I don't think Iowa's going to be that tough. I think if you can bracket Rondale Moore and the passing threat for Purdue, you'll come out of there with a win, and then you come into go into Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's coming out of 2 much tougher games. That's kind of my thought point at what drives that kind of prediction.
Yeah. No.
I just, because God bless it, and I really don't want to sound offensive when I say this, and we all know the reason why, but we don't have that Big Ten Ohio State Michigan rivalry like we used to anymore.
No.
We still, it's there, it exists, we still talk shit, we still throw the middle finger up, but
see,
it's not the same right now, right? So
the reason is Michigan doesn't care about the rivalry near as much as we do. Right. We're still hardcore fuck Michigan. I don't want to see you succeed at anything you do.
Yeah, but then we don't get it back.
Yeah.
And it's ruining it, right? I want to see a rivalry between. I want to see that kind of rivalry between Minnesota and Wisconsin. I want to see them throwing the middle finger up.
I want to see them talking
more
teams.
shit.
I think what's going to develop into more of a rivalry is Ohio State Penn State. It's already a rivalry game, but I feel like you're going to get because Penn State's more competitive.
But he's talking on the other side.
I get you.
I'm talking about from like a territorial war, just like we did with Michigan. I wanted them to dive deep into some stuff here.
Side by side, baby.
Yeah, they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And at the same time, from living up in Wisconsin and hearing the way that people talk about the 2 different states, Wisconsin kind of talks shit about people from Minnesota, and I know Minnesota kind of probably talks shit about people from Wisconsin.
For sure.
I want to see some shit. Like I want some more fun in this conference, man. Like bring it back, because right now us Buckeye fans are fucking bored. So Wisconsin and Minnesota, let's spark some shit. I'm gonna start tweeting some stuff whenever I see anything possible, because I want to initiate some like real rivalry type stuff between this, because I want to see it. I want to see some spark.
Absolutely. So those are my